Welcome to the Let's Talk About Love, Sex, and Infidelity podcast with your host, Todd Krieger. Todd has over 35 years of experience working with thousands of couples as a licensed therapist in his private practice. Todd shares his insights on this show. It's never too early to divorce-proof your marriage or too late to heal yourselves and have the relationship you truly want.
Hello, everybody. Thank you all for tuning in. This is Todd Krieger, and today I am interviewing Stephen Paul Edwards. Stephen Paul Edwards, I get a lot of requests to be on my podcast and my videos, and I just don't usually respond, but he intrigued me. And Stephen is a writer. He's the author of a book called The Venus Flytrap, and we were definitely talking about that. He's got a PhD in spiritual counseling. And he's just an interesting man. I'll let you find out about him as we talk and I ask my questions. So nice to have you here, Stephen.
I'm delighted to be here, Todd. Thank you so much for inviting me on your show. And I said at the beginning, I said, and I'm really thank you because I know you get a lot of people who would love to be on your show. So I feel honored that you chose me. And I'm glad that you're intrigued and I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Sure. Obviously, The Venus Flytrap is a great title. And it really is like you get an idea of where it's going. Great. But tell me what inspired you to finally tell your story about the Venus Flytrap? Because you wait a while. I mean, this is a project.
Yeah, that's true. And you mentioned the name of the book. So this is about a relationship, crazy relationship, which we were talking about earlier. And she actually gave me the title of the book, the Tomas. Yeah, because funny situation. I asked her. We just met and we were going out on our first date, and I wanted to tie the date down because she'd already canceled on me a couple of times. So I'm texting her and I was telling her what I'd planned for this first date. And I said to her, "What's your favorite flower?" And she texted back, "Bird of paradise." And so I like to joke around, right? So I sent her a text back, "No way, it's mine too. But it's a bit expensive though. What's your second favorite?" As a joke.
That's funny.
And she texted back, "Todd, I kid you not, within seconds, Venus Flytrap."
But this was a prophecy.
She found herself the duality because she could be the bird of paradise.
Yes.
And she could also be the Venus Flytrap. And
wow.
Deep down in my subconscious, I was listening to you earlier, like I said, about gaslighting. And you said intuitively, when something hits you, but sometimes our ego or our desire to be with someone negates.
Yeah.
But I knew deep down that she was the Venus Flytrap and I was the fly. The great analogy. So anyway, you asked what made me write the book. And like you said, it was quite a period of time from when it all happened to when I wrote the book. And part of that, to be honest with you, is if I'm in a relationship, it's difficult to write an erotic, romantic memoir that actually happened being with a partner, right? Because you know what I mean? So anyway. So about 3 years ago, I decided that I needed to take a break from being in a relationship and to take some time to reflect on my life. I'd spent most of my life running away from myself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you've met many people that have done that, right?
Oh, yes.
Going full speed, 200 miles an hour, never reflecting back on your life, even though I spent quite a lot of time journaling, but I never read the journal. So anyway, I stopped. And I went on this journey of self-reflection, and it was so cathartic. It was amazing. I'd find myself writing, laughing at the things that happened, crying at the things that happened. It was so powerful. But by the time I'd written the book, first of all, you think you can write a book and it's just a story. You're just telling what happened. It's so easy. But of course, it's not that easy. There's a lot more to the whole process, right? I thought this really is an amazing story. And it's funny. It's a crazy adventure, like you said, all massive extremes. And it's also tragic.
Yeah.
Because as we were talking about earlier, she ended up having a psychological disease, meant we couldn't be together anymore. And even through all the craziness, the crazy things she did, I loved her. I still love her. Very much. Yeah. So it's a love story. It's all those things, but it's also, there's got a lot of depth to it. We were talking about earlier about shame, overcoming your fears, but also facing yourself, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So Anyway, listen, I could keep going on and on forever. I know you got some.
Yeah, no, this is great. No, you're right. And obviously, I think one of the most important decisions people have to make in their life, which separates having a better life versus not a better life, is, do I stop and take a look? Do I go within? Because people are running and reacting. It's just our default. It's a way of coping with our emotions. And so you were doing that, as you said. And then this book was like a demarcation where I'm going to stop. I'm going to look inside. And I'm sure you develop a deeper relationship with yourself by doing that.
So much.
Yeah. Not that you want us to write a book to do that, but something to stop. And you did that.
She gave me the greatest gift I've ever had from another person. And I've worked with some pretty big loomerers. She was a master teacher. When they talk about that in the spiritual realm, she was a master teacher for me. What she helped me do was own the part of myself that I'd already hidden away from my life. And I always say, we have a light side and a dark side to our nature. And I think, just speaking for myself, I had always tried to hide that dark side of my nature. And so she drew it out of me in a way that I realized, hey, it's okay. You're human, right? And it's okay to be human and accept that, to face your shame, because you're judging it yourself, all of us do it too. And so in the end, when I finished the book, I'm thinking, there's nothing left to hide. I got nothing left to hide.
Wow.
You know
what a way to live, though. It's a better way to live.
Yeah. That's why I say she gave me a freedom I'd never had before, Todd.
Yeah, freedom.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, I talk a lot with clients about parts. I do trauma work. I use a system called internal family systems. I use the MDR, different things. And one of the things that you learn is about these parts. And you're right. I have talked about, for example, I work a lot with infidelity. And I think, and there's lots of reasons. And childhood trauma is a big part of it. And I always I have a program called Healing Infidelity from the Inside Out. But my point of mentioning that is there's lots of inner reasons why these things happen. But I also think the societal reasons why it happens. And I do think that we've been taught to hide from ourselves. If it's not accepted by me or my family or society, it goes on the ground. We exile it. And so we present ourselves to the world, but there are parts of us that are very presentable. But there are other parts that are not so easy. Yeah. And those parts that we don't present, that we exile, run us in many ways. And we can't make good decisions versus where you're at now, where you've looked and it's a never-ending journey, being open to all our parts, the wonderful parts that are shine and loving and kind, and the other parts that are insecure, that are vengeful, that are sexual, and there's nothing bad about those parts as long as you're aware. Anyway.
Absolutely. It's good. It's great stuff. It's so true. And one of the things that, I'm English and we have a very sarcastic sense of humor. So my humor's coming out all the time in this book. And I talk to the reader as in first person. So we're having a conversation in the book.
That's great.
I'll say, you probably wondering why I didn't break up with her. If I hadn't broken up with her, you wouldn't be reading this book and having so much fun, would you? So stop judging. So I'm
doing it for you. I did.
This is all for you. But it was an amazing experience, and learning how to. I lost myself. You talked about this earlier, right? When you're gaslit all the time, you want to believe that person so much, so good at it, that what you don't realize, but little by slow, you're becoming insane, losing your mind, losing yourself, losing your mind, right?
Yes. Yes.
Which is scary. And in the end, that was why I had to let it go. I didn't want to, because I thought so much. Yeah. But I also realized that, and you said this a minute ago too, is a question of, do you want a life or do you want a life like that?
Yes.
It's never going to end. And that was the final thing for me when I realized that this disorder that she had is not curable. It's treatable, but it's not curable. And she would never allow it to be treated. Why?
Yes.
Because we'll talk about the trauma. The child, obviously someone has BPD, has childhood trauma. I had childhood trauma.
BPD, borderline, I was just going to say to people listening, they have a borderline personality disorder, and we're going to get to the childhood trauma. Borderline personality disorder, what I've learned, is on a spectrum, just like everything else in our field I've learned. And so I think there are people that have milder forms of borderline personality disorder that are treatable and curable, maybe to a degree, and like they can handle it and it doesn't run their lives. But Then there are others where it's just scary and difficult, and there's a limitation that they have. So anyway, I just want to say borderline personality disorder. Yeah,
She had it acutely, right?
had acutely, yeah.
All the 9 symptoms were off the charts. So anyway, and the reason it was childhood trauma, but also because I don't want to take too long on this, but her father put her in an asylum when she was 16.
Jeez.
Yeah. She would never go to therapy. She would never do anything like that because it's just like the scariest thing in the world for her. Because if they realize that I have this issue, they're going to put me back in. They're going to put me back in there. So there was no hope for her in terms of, there was no hope of her ever being cured or even being able to manage it because she would never allow that. That was a big thing. That was big for me to have to face. It was hard.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is. There's a point when you realize, because my guess is with you really tried. I know I don't have to even guess at this. You really tried. You tried hard.
Yeah.
When you're with someone that gaslights, whether they have a personality disorder, or usually they have some sort of personality disorder, like borderline or narcissistic, and the partner's trying so hard to make it work, and you're knocking your head up against the wall. And then there's a point where you have to face, it's not me, it's you, and I'm powerless. But for a while, we don't think it's them. We think it's us, right? That's the thing.
You got to be honest. I always thought it was her, but it wasn't. It was me as well.
Sure, it was.
That's it for my part.
You did a dance with her. It was a dance.
And it was a great dance. We had incredible times, amazing times, as well as the trauma, the madness.
Yeah. Talk about some of the amazing times, because I think, again, people are in these relationships and it's not all bad, right? There's a lot of, so tell about the good stuff and the bad stuff.
Going back to when all this happened, I was living in a 7,500 square foot mansion with a sex room, full on sex room. And I just knew right from the time I met her, now she's a 5'11", knockout, gorgeous, former international supermodel. So that's a problem to begin with, right?
Yeah.
And sexually, we were aligned, right? So she was, I think, generally speaking, and I can't speak to this the way you can, but my understanding is borderline personality people tend to be very sexual, right? And tend to be promiscuous and not, what was the word you used? Not monogamous.
They're not monogamous and they're not boring.
Not boring. Without going into too much detail, we had all kinds of running with the law all the time. There was some kind of problem with the law. I made a joke. I lived in a very beautiful neighborhood with a lot of very wealthy people, and they wanted to get rid of her, which they did eventually. She was banned from living in my neighborhood because she was so crazy. At one point, I was away, and she comes back to the house. At that time, I'm trying to not let her be in the house. So she tries to break in the house. The alarm goes off. The police come out, and they're running over people's lawns with police dogs. There's 6 sheriff's cars all there. The neighbors are freaking out, right? So they're like,
oh my God.
So eventually she got banned from the neighborhood. That's just one example of things. We went on a cruise, on a luxury cruise. We had the penthouse. We almost got thrown off the ship. If the ship hadn't been at sail, we probably would have, right? The crazy shenanigans.
I have to ask this.
Yeah.
On the cruise, what happened? What did she do that led you guys to almost be thrown off the ship? This is my curiosity.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Do you remember the last time you and your partner got into that same argument for what felt like the 1,000th time? You know that moment when you see the familiar signs, the tone shift, the defensive posture, the rising tension, and you think, here we go again. If this sounds familiar, you're not alone. Licensed therapist Todd Krieger has worked with over 1,000 couples who felt trapped in these exact same destructive patterns. And after 30 years of clinical experience, he's discovered something fascinating. Relationship conflict isn't about poor communication skills or incompatibility. It's about understanding what's happening in your brain during those heated moments and having practical tools to redirect that energy toward connection instead of combat. That's why Todd created From Bickering to Connecting, a 90-minute masterclass that teaches neuroscience-backed techniques like the STOP method and 90-second rule. Take Jennifer and Mark, who had been fighting about household responsibilities for years. After learning Todd's techniques, they can now discuss the exact same topic without it exploding. As Jennifer put it, it's like we finally have a pause button for our arguments. Instead of another week of tension, you could be applying these life-changing techniques tonight. For just $97 for both you and your partner, you get lifetime access to the same tools that have helped over 1,000 couples break free from destructive patterns. You can find the link to enroll in Todd's Loving and Connecting Masterclass in the show notes.
Okay, a number of things. One, we'd gone to dinner with the captain, and we went back up to the penthouse, and there was a veranda. The whole thing was half the top of the ship, right? So you come out these sliding doors, and there's a glass table there that you could eat dinner or have snacks out there and enjoy the view of the ship. Above us was an area where people could see over. Obviously, they could see over, right? So we came back from hanging out with the captain. Of course, she was all over the captain, right? But he was a very handsome man, right, from Colombia. And he looked like he just stepped off a movie, basically. But he saw what was happening and very quickly tended to focus on me, not her, because he's on a ship, right?
Yes.
And he was a very happy married man. He was a wonderful man. Anyway, so she was ticked off because he wasn't giving her attention, right? So we come back to the room, and I'm making jokes about this. So she says, whatever. So she says, you get all this. And she does a sweeping hands down her body. Don't worry about it. You get to have all this, right? So anyway, she walks out the sliding doors. And so I follow her, by which time she's lying on the glass table with her legs open saying, let's get at it. We shouldn't say, let's get at it. So we're having sex on this glass table, and we finish, and suddenly I can hear all these voices.
Oh my God.
So all these people were looking over the balcony, watching the whole thing, right? By which time I realized the phone in the room is ringing because the room time to stop. And there was a staircase going down to the lower deck that was locked, and only we and the ship's crew could open it. The ship's crew were coming in through the door, right? To come in. God. So I got up to go and meet them, and she said, I got it. And I thought she's probably going to do a better job than I would on this. So she goes and tells them if they come up those stairs, she's going to sue them and all this. Anyway, so they all run away. So now this is like the talk of the ship, right? The following morning when the captain's doing his announcements in the morning, he made reference to it. And then, so it was that. And there was a few things that happened. The other thing was we had a butler, right? A private butler who was obviously privy to all the arguments we would have. She would just get paranoid and start making accusations as though they were true. This is we go through. So I would play along. I just agree with her. I go, yeah. She goes, why do you screw the women? And I said, because they're available. You know what? Why not? She would go, but that word, Mako, she wanted me to engage in an argument. So I just align with her. Yeah. I'm going to call her. I said, okay, do you need a number? She goes, yeah. I said, it's 1-800, I fuck your boyfriend. So this would go on, but it would, instead of sometimes calming it down, it would escalate. And she'd make all kinds of accusations as though she's true. Then she'd say things like, I can smell her perfume on you. It's awful. And I've seen a picture and she's ugly. She hasn't seen any of this. But then the butler came in and said, look, if you guys don't calm down, I'm going to have the police meet you when we get off the ship. And I'm thinking, that's par for the course, probably going to happen. So these are the kind of things that would go on.
Sex where everyone sees, but then there's also the yelling and the craziness of that and the paranoia, and you are figuring out anything you can to regulate her.
I'm like
looking to agree with her.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Because sometimes we'd have an argument about nothing, and then she'd wander off somewhere, and then she'd be texting me all these texts that were just full of awful things, awful accusations. Right. And then when we first met, I'd be like answering each one, right? And then she'd just get even more mad and send more. So I realized I just got to let her vent. Yeah. And when she'd finish, she takes, I love you. I knew she'd come to the end of it, right?
Yes, she's just emoting. Just whatever she's feeling comes out, gets projected onto you. She has some fear, you're cheating on me. Whatever it is.
Well, she was cheating on me.
Well, she was cheating on you. But then she feels okay for a moment. Then she says, I love you. Yeah, no, it's wild. That's wild. But this is not, people might be hearing this and go, that's a crazier story than mine. But we got to look at where there's some similarities. It's not that different. from what a lot of people are going through, where they have these ups and downs, or they have this craziness. It might be a different kind of craziness.
Yeah.
So how did you, because this was happening, and I'm sure at times it was exciting. At times it was really exciting. At times it was really stressful.
Big time.
So how did you handle it during these ups and downs? How did you cope?
That's a really good question. I think I can't speak for everybody. For me, what I would do is I'd rationalize it. I would rationalize and say, you know what? It's not that big of a deal, right? You saying that in the podcast I listened to earlier, you rationalize it. So for example, I was just thinking about, she wants to get married. The whole ring thing that you were telling me earlier, right? The ring stuff. She actually, when we first got together, she saw me as a mark. She had this relationship with her father, didn't feel like he loved him. So if your father can't love you, who can? And she's beautiful. So she thinks men are just out for sex with her. So she's out to punish men, right?
Yep.
Meets me and wants to destroy my life, which she almost did on more than one occasion. Got to the point where I said, I don't know this for sure, but I think she thought, I'm never going to get rid of this guy, so I may as well do something else. Maybe I'll marry him and I get all the stuff that way. I'll punish him that way. And I would not marry her because I knew if I ever married her, it would be over. It'd be over. So the only way to stay in any kind of relationship with her was not to marry her. So I had to come up with all these reasons and why we couldn't be married and all those things. And she would be arguing with me. And anyway, but the bottom line is, she was living in Miami, right? So I had her living in Miami and I was in Sarasota. And she says, I'm in Miami now, so I want to make sure that people know I'm married. Because you know how these guys are and all this thing. And I'm thinking, no guy's going to care whether you're married or not anyway. They just want to. I said, okay, all right. So she said, I don't have to get a real diamond, but can I get a fake diamond? Go, okay, all right, how bad could that be, right? So we go out and buy this diamond, but some of these fake diamonds are almost as expensive as a real one anyway. So I get her this fake diamond and she gets it sized and get it sent to her in Miami. And I'm going out to go to this party for this new drink that she's now helping to promote called Moscow, right? So she's in the alcohol business. Perfect. She's an alcoholic, right? She's in alcohol business anyway.
Sure.
So I agree to go to this party, this launch party for this drink. It's at this bar in Miami. And I go and then it's packed and everybody turns around and goes, congratulations. He told them all we were getting married.
Oh my God.
So I'm going to my engagement party. And what can I say? I can't say, no, hang on, it's not So she was very good at roping you into things where you just couldn't move. You felt like you were in a straitjacket. And I felt like I was in a straitjacket and I was helping her put it on.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's amazing. The story that Stephen is referring to, that we talked about before I did the recording, was a couple that I saw many years ago, actually. A good-looking couple, lived in Newport Beach, California, and they came in and I said, what brings you guys here? And she put up her left hand and there was no ring on her finger, and she pointed to her fourth finger and said, this is why we're here. I said, oh, okay. So I looked at him, I said, so why aren't you proposing? And he goes, I want to propose to her. I love her, but she needs to learn to get her emotions under control. We need to learn how to have conflict like two more mature people. And it just gets crazy. Like you said, mayhem. That's like, I think he used the word mayhem. It's mayhem. And she goes, if you put a ring on my finger, maybe there wouldn't be mayhem. And he goes, I don't want mayhem. I just want us to. And she goes, the problem is you're not putting a ring on my finger. And he goes, maybe the problem is that you fuck other men because you're angry at me when I don't put the ring on your finger and I got to deal with that. And she goes, I won't fuck those other men if you give me a ring. So this is the kind of, again, it's roping you in. It's in her reality. It was, you're the villain. You're the villain. I'm the victim. And meanwhile, she's a Venus flytrap. Ultimately, I helped him realize he would come in and go, this is what happened. And he was alone. And I saw the veins on his neck. I was afraid he was going to have a heart attack, this guy. Yeah. And I finally said, look, I don't try to share diagnoses that much oftentimes, but I think she has borderline personality disorder. And she just said, look at this. And he looked at you talked about the 9 things in the DSM, and he looked and went, oh my God. And you could see his body relaxed. Because you said, I knew it was her, but you still got caught up in it. He didn't know it was her. He actually, in some ways, they could be gaslighting, manipulative, and bought into it. So it was a relief for him. And then we just did our best to help try to regulate her emotions the best we could. But he was able to at least free himself from the burden of, because she would call him names. She'd be terrible to him, and he'd be a victim of it.
That was for me. Story. Yeah, part of it for me was, we both had childhood trauma. I think everybody has childhood trauma pretty much, right? I was diagnosed as a manic depressive when I was about 16. Put me on lithium. But of course, like many manic depressives or bipolar, didn't take the medication. So my life up and down like this. So there was similarity, right?
Yes, there was.
I was drawn to the excitement.
Your outside mirrored your inside. Yeah.
There you go. I love the excitement. I love the adventure. I love that we didn't live a normal life. We just didn't live we lived a fantasy life, because I was traveling around. I don't know if I told you this. I worked with Tony Robbins for a long time, and I started my own personal development program, spiritual and personal development. And so I was traveling around all the time speaking. And then we'd come home to this mansion. We didn't have any kids, so we could do whatever we wanted to do. And when we traveled away, we stayed in nice hotels and enjoyed these things. It wasn't a real life. It was not a real life. It was a fantasy world. And of course, she liked that, living in a fantasy world, because I don't know if I told you this, her father was a billionaire. So she'd been raised like a princess.
Yes.
Some people call that a brat. And she was a brat. Sometimes she was just a brat. So why? I don't know why. I just thought, she's authentic. It was her authenticity. She never made any excuses for who she was. This is a ramp. Like it, there's the door.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And I thought, she was very great. And she was very smart as well. So we both had this, we both enjoyed, and this is when I first met her, I found out about this, that we both enjoyed backgammon. So we would have these 3 days of craziness in the sex room, and then in between sessions of being in there, we would play backgammon, right? And that's when we have our time to be together and talk. And she had amazing insights. As I say in the book, her name is Tamar. It's not a real name, but it's a name very similar to that. But Tamar's is the word for tomorrow. It means tomorrow. And I always thought, she is so like from the future. Her ideas are so progressive. And she could see that things that she believed in now would be things that would occur in the future. She was just a little, maybe. But we talked about marriage, we talked about monogamy, and she said, monogamy is one of the biggest problems with our society, because you're forcing something on people that either they don't want, or they're not ready for, or they don't believe in. And you're trying to make everybody do the same thing. And some people are not right for monogamy. And I said, yeah, you for one. Anyway, but it's an intelligent conversation, interesting way of looking at it.
Sure.
She was very smart. And her intelligence was unfortunately used in a way to what she thought was going to protect her. And she was, as narcissists very often are, very selfish. It was all about her. Everything was revolved around her. And so she used that in a way for her to get the result she wanted, which was revenge. And revenge, which is unfortunate, because she could have done anything she wanted to do, anything. And she proved that. She was actually involved in she made some movies. She was involved in a TV show. And so when she set her mind to do it, she could do anything. And she was extraordinarily intuitive, extraordinarily.
I could see why you were drawn to her for all these qualities, not just her beauty, but she's interesting, intelligent, brave.
Which is why, even to this day, I can't be anywhere near her, because if I was, it'd start all over again. That's like, she was my heroine.
That's a good way of saying it.
When you have, and you never fully recover from that. You know that you can never have heroin again. And so I know that, that if it's like a heroin addict saying, I'll just have it one more time. You can't. You cannot, because you'll just slip back into where you.
Yeah, it's complex. Toxicity at times doesn't feel bad.
Right.
Doesn't always feel bad. But it could weather us. It really could wear us down. But So let me ask you, there's a question that I had for you that was one of the questions, even though we're not really following much, because I like this much more spontaneous style. But you said, what is the new sexual the question is, what is the new sexual revolution and what is driving it? And I was curious how you'd answer that question given your experience.
Yeah, we should probably take that question off the list. No, I'm just kidding. But it's not a short answer, but I would say, look, if you look back, and so an exaggerated period of time, 50 years ago, how women used to think, how they would dress, and today there's no comparison. Women are much more sexually liberated, right? And the more sexually liberated they are, the more sexually liberated they become. And that transfers over to men as well. So if you look at some of the things I use as an example is Burning Man that they have every year. And you see all these women and men dressed very sexually overtly. It's beautiful, right? But that would never have happened 50 years ago. So really like conscious evolution, we evolve, right?
Yeah.
And we now have a world that we live in that's kind of choose your sexuality. What do you want to be today? So I feel and I think this has been something that's been projected into our minds, the movies become reality, right?
Yeah.
And when you see these stories about aliens, right, coming to Earth, there's a certain picture they put in your mind of how these aliens are, like they're very androgynous, right? So what I see is we're moving more to androgyny, that we're becoming, you don't know what someone's sex is, right?
Yeah.
And so I think the evolution is driven, right, by things like I just said, movies, the media. We can now see into the lives of people like we never could before because of social media.
Yeah.
We can do and say just about anything. I was just on TikTok. I got to use social media. I got to get used to it. I've never, ever used social media, which makes me very threatened. I know, right? Anyway, I have a team of people that help me with what I'm doing and getting the book going and all this stuff. So anyway, they've got me on TikTok. And I was learning how to get in there.
Why not? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And so one of the first reels that comes on is this girl dressed, oh my God, beautiful, but in a sexy way, this kind of, whoa. So these kind of other girls see that and then they say, oh, it's okay to do that. It's happening to work, right?
Yes, yes.
All these incredible singers, artists, rock stars.
Yeah.
They all do it. Right?
They're more expressive, much more.
Yeah, very impressive.
One of the themes that you and I have been talking about is parts and complexity. And I would say the way I look at it, which I think totally is parallel to what you're saying, is back in the old days, whatever that means, people's parts, many of their parts, their shadowy parts, their sexual parts, for women, even their powerful parts at the time, had to go underground. And people had to leave many parts of them behind. And it wasn't even a conscious thing. Whereas now, with evolution, people are claiming their parts. Look, in the field that I'm in, back in the 1900s, early 1900s, someone was sexually molested. It was no way. Actually, the story that I learned, and it's been verified by people I really respect, is that Sigmund Freud went to some of his colleagues way back in 1902 or 1904 or whatever it was. And he said, look, there are people coming to me, adults, that they were molested. And the good old boy psychiatrist and the network of people said, you start talking about that, we will ban you. So he came up with the Oedipal complex. And that's the way I learned it. The Oedipal complex is where the child is just having imaginations of wanting to be sexual. But the truth is, and maybe there's some, I know there's no truth in that, really. Now, of course, they want attention. They want the attention. And 5-year-olds will get in the way when mommy and daddy hug. They want to get this and me, or 3-year-olds. But there were things that were really happening, but we couldn't speak it. So that's a long way of saying that there's many parts of us that are now freer and freer to come out. And with that complexity, now we need to learn, how do we manage all that? I know what Tomas was talking about monogamy. I wrote a book called The Long Hot Marriage. That was the author of the book, The Long Hot Marriage. And I've chosen a monogamous lifestyle. And with a monogamous lifestyle, you have to be wise, and creative and open. But we've grown up in a society where it's not so open. And it breeds these, I'm not going to tell you I'm angry. I'm surely not going to tell you sometimes, like in my marriage, I could tell my wife, that girl half my age, there's a part of me that wants to flirt with her right now. Right. And she'll go, yeah, you're a creeper, but yeah, it's like, yeah, I get, it's like, there's a part of me that's really there, and, and so we want, and having and for many people in my field, I've had to evolve along and become more open-minded and realize monogamy isn't the way for everybody, but can we do it? 'Cause I've worked with people that do polyamory, but they didn't do it in a healthy way. But you can do monogamy in a healthy way. You can do polyamory in a healthy way. So as these parts of us come out, and we have this sexual revolution, that I think that's a good question. You should leave it in there. And you answered it really well. We also need to, okay, how do we handle it? How do we create contracts where we're not being harmful, where we respect the contract? So anyway,
in the book I write about this sexual revolution. I talk about all these different dynamics and swingers, and in the right way, that can work for people.
Yes.
They have codes when you go to these parties, and if you're a vanilla, you're just there to view, you're not going to get involved, all these things. So I learned about that. It's not for me. It's not for me. It's just something I couldn't do, or don't want to do, should I say.
Right.
And I want to be in a monogamous relationship.
Yes.
Not only was she not monogamous, she was bisexual.
Yes.
And she wanted to have sex with me and other women with us.
Yes.
Right?
With you.
Most men go, oh my God, that would be my dream.
Heaven,
For
right.
me, it wasn't something I wanted to do. So I got a quick funny story to tell you about that. By this time in the relationship, she'd already been banned from the community. So I had to put her up in hotels. And she kept getting thrown out of the hotels. So she kept getting thrown out. I had to find another one. So anyway, and then, of course, like you said, that woman said, if you put a ring on my finger, it wouldn't happen, which is totally not true. But she says to me, so she's gone out on one of her escapades for a weekend, and I had to go bail her out. So she said, this wouldn't happen if you come back from your trips and you don't want to go out, and I'm home the whole time and I want to go out. I said, okay, we'll go out on dates more. So I pick her up. Now at this time, not anymore, I was making $1 million a year back then, right? I'm not anymore, which is fine. And I'm actually freer now than I was then because I didn't have all those things. Anyway, the point is, I pick her up in a Rolls Royce. So I leave, I pick her up in a Rolls Royce, in my Rolls Royce. So we go to the Ritz-Carlton family, having some drinks before dinner. And she goes to the bathroom and she comes back with this beautiful blonde girl. And I'm thinking, I know already where this is going, right? So, Stephen, this is Tracy. We just met in the bathroom. Yeah. I said, okay. So Tracy's, oh, very nice to meet you, Stephen. We just met, and I feel like I've known Tomas my whole life. We're
Horrors. Yes.
Right? This is a very impressionable young lady. So I already know, and I look at Tomas and I go, be nice to her. She just broken up with her relationship. She's been having drinks with another lady from her new job. She just moved to Sarasota. She was having drinks with this lady who wasn't of the same age. And so she goes to the bathroom before she's just about to leave, and Tomas walks in. So Tomas can pick up a guy or a woman in seconds. It's incredible. Anyway, so she comes back with this girl, Tracy. She'd say, oh my God, Stephen, have you seen her legs? Oh my God, they're so beautiful. Show him your legs, Tracy. So Tracy's pulling up her dress. I'm mortified. And then she said, look at her teeth. She's got beauty. It's like a horse, right? She's like, spraying this girl. So then she said, I need to go to the bathroom. I need to go to the restroom. Tracy, come with me. And I know what's going to happen in there. She's going to convince her to do this. So she comes back after about 10, 15 minutes or so. And they're both giggling like little girls, right? And so we sit down and Tomas says, I have a proposal for you. And I know what it's going to be, right? And I try and make a joke. I've already proposed to somebody, right? You're going to listen to this, right? She's looking at me like, shut up and listen, because this is what's going to happen, right? Wow. So then she says, we feel like would it be great to go somewhere where we can have a little bit more fun and relax a little bit more? So I get up from the table and I said to her, can I have a word? So I go back into the hotel, and where the bathrooms are, there's like an alcove outside the bathroom. So I go stand in that alcove. She comes running, Tomas comes running up. What the fuck are you doing? You ruined this whole thing. And I said, listen, I'm just not into that. You know that I'm not into that, right? She says, listen, she's just come out of a relationship. She hasn't had sex in about 6 months. She is so ready. You're telling me that you're going to turn down 2 beautiful women having sex with. I said, yeah, I am. She said, look, I tell you what, she said, go get a room. I said, I'm not going to get a room. I said, what are we going to do? Walk up to the reception with no bags and say, we're going to get a room? She said, don't be stupid. You're going to go to the reception and check us in, then we're going to come over to the room. She's got an answer for everything, which is obvious.
Wow.
And I said, do you know how much a room is here? She said, shut up. You would get a room in a heartbeat if it wasn't this situation, which is that you're right. So I had to go back to the truth. And I said, look, I just don't, it's not for me. I'm going back out there. I said, I'm leaving. She said, okay, goodbye. So I picked the car up at the valet. I'm in the car. She comes running out. So I say to the valet, stop her. What's he going to do? He can't do anything, right? She runs up to I'm just starting to go. She runs up to the Rolls Royce, takes the door open, the suicide door, and jumps in. So now we're driving back to her hotel together. And she's going off on me, right? She's going, what is wrong with you? Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So a couple of weeks earlier, we'd been in Las Vegas. And I had to leave her there on her own with no money. Because we got thrown out of that hotel. Anyway, so she knew that so I said to her, Tomas, if you don't shut up right now and stop this, I'm gonna drop you off and you can walk back to the hotel on your own. She knew I was capable of doing that now because of what happened.
She did it, yeah.
So she folds her arms. Okay. So we get back to the hotel. She gets out of the car, slams the door, of course, right? And goes to her room. So I drive off. I'm sorry, this is a bit long, but I said to her, so I didn't say it. So she's walking into the hotel, freaked, angry as hell. And I just looked at her and I went, God, I love that woman. You know what I mean? And so I drove off and I thought, you know what? I need some female company, but someone that doesn't know what's going on here. So I went to see an old girlfriend. I go to a house, park outside, turn off the engine, look for my key fob, which is how I used to get in the car and start the car. It's not there. She's stolen the key fob.
Oh, wow.
So as soon as I turn off the engine, I have no way to go anywhere or do anything.
Oh, my goodness.
So then I have to go in to see my ex-girlfriend because I can't leave the car outside. She's going to go, where is he? So I have to go in there and explain this to her in a lighter version of everything that's happening. I said, I got to go get my key fob. So I go back to the hotel, get to her room, and I walk in and I go, where's the key fob? She goes, what key fob?
Wow. How did you get to the hotel?
And then in Uber, I had to Uber.
Uber. Yeah.
I had to Uber. I get back to the hotel and she's doing all kinds of other things. I'm knocking on the door, right? She goes, Trevor, is that you? Like joking.
Oh, man. She's good. She's vengeful. And
she's very sharp, right?
She doesn't want to lose.
No. Then she's on a phone to her mother. If she was on the phone to her mother, I don't even know. She's made phone calls to her mother before in front of me and there was nobody there. And she says, I don't know, mother. He's so angry. He gets out of control, setting me up. So then I sit down and she says, let's watch a movie. Tracy will be over in a minute. And she goes, I'm just kidding. No, Tracy's not coming. And then I said to her, listen, I got to get that key fob because I got to go get the car. She said, where is the car? Within seconds, right? She's got me, right? I said, I left it at a friend's house. What friend?
Oh, boy. Boy. Now talk about being in a Venus flytrap. That was a great, oh my God.
So in the end, this is the end, right? So I have to then take the Uber back to my ex-girlfriend's house, hang out with her a little bit, left, and I had to have the Rolls towed to the dealership because I couldn't drive it.
They had to create a new fob for you.
Fortunately, eventually I did get it back off her. But
you got it back off.
Wow. That would have been $500. So that night, I'm in bed. After all this has happened, I think to myself, who else could drive to a date in a Rolls Royce with a beautiful girlfriend, end up with two beautiful women, then go and see his ex-girlfriend, not even get a chance to eat dinner at any point, and lose it all? I'm not really pull that.
Oh, you did. That's a talent. That is a talent. That is great. So, look, it's intriguing. This is just a snippet, what you and I have talked about, what's in your book, The Venus Flytrap. And we do, it's great because it has depth. It is a story. It's fun because it's erotic and some of the things, the stories we're talking about, and it's intriguing. But it's also, I know it's depth, and I know you get into some real important stuff too. So you mix it all up. So how could people get this book? How could they learn more about you? Tell us that.
Thank you. It's available on Amazon. But what I would say is come meet us on the website. The website is vft23.com. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of free stuff on there. You can get a free version of the book. There's other books there. There's another bonus book. We talked at the beginning about madness and mayhem. They also wrote, it's only a short book, but it's called Madness and Mayhem. Giving people a little bit of a taste for what the book is about. And there's all sorts of other amazing information. We've talked about my background in personal and spiritual development. So a lot of that stuff on there.
Great.
I think people find it interesting.
I think so too. I think so too. We could have kept talking.
Oh, for sure. I feel like we just started, right? It's been
Yeah,
like
I
5.
know.
Yeah.
I know. It's been 1 and 5, but it feels like 5. So that's great. My God, Stephen, it's such a pleasure to talk with you. I hope people reach out, and it's fascinating. VFT23.com, which is right there in the background you have right there. And so it was a pleasure.
Yeah, for me too. Thank you for taking a chance on me, because you didn't know what you were going to get.
That's what I did it.
Yeah.
Look, you took a lot of chances. In life, you got to take a lot of chances. And then sometimes you go, oh, what have I got myself into? But it surely wasn't boring, like I said. So it was a pleasure meeting you. And we'll talk in a few minutes. I'm going to stop the recording. And I hope all the watchers and listeners enjoy this as much as I have. And they go buy your book.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Todd.
You are welcome. All right.
That's it for today's episode of Let's Talk About Love, Sex, and Infidelity podcast with your host, Todd Krieger. For free resources and materials, head over to toddkrieger.com. Loved this episode? Head over to iTunes and subscribe, rate, and leave a review. We'd really appreciate it. Thank you.